Welcome to the Spiritually Embodied Leader podcast. I'm Cynthia Gutierrez, a mom, dancer, dark side trance freak, and the creator of Embodied Ritual. I love to help conscious moms, healers, and highly sensitive people like you regulate your nervous system so you can embody your true essence, align with your higher calling, and finally become the parent you've always dreamed of being. Inside this podcast, we're going to be shining light on the topics of embodiment, subconscious mind, ritual and ceremony, cyclical living, and returning to nature so that you can enjoy life with the fullness of who you are. Thank you so much for being here. Now, let's get into it. Hello. I am so glad that you are tuning into this episode today because it is a special one. It's an epic one. Oh my God. So it's basically a case study of one of my former clients, Cara, who did an amazing, like straight up 180 transformation on her life, and not just for her, but for her family too. Okay, so she's raising 2 kids, toddlers, with her partner. And when she came to me, she was in a really, really hard place in her life, where she had found herself evicted from her home, and she was on this like limited hotel voucher as she was trying to find another place and like was struggling to find another place. And she was like in between jobs. So she had just left one job and doing her best to find another job. So she was in between jobs and having a really, really hard time, as you could imagine, right? Like emotionally, mentally, like she just was at her wit's end. And, she was just being as resourceful as she possibly could with as little as she had. And I'm just so honored that she reached out to me and that I was able to walk alongside her path as she trusted me on this coaching journey that we went on for 4 sessions. Okay. And yeah. So I'm just so excited to share with you a recording of us talking together and just kind of like reflecting on her journey and what had happened. And I just really want to share with you basically the potential of the transformation that you can also experience for yourself. Yeah. And you're going to hear me say multiple times in the recording, what is possible for them is possible for you. It's possible for me, and it's possible for your neighbor, okay? And it's so true. And when we really allow ourselves to, 1, decide that it's time for a change, and 2, be willing to create change in your own life, like the universe will provide. And I'm just so glad that she opened up and was willing to like, you know, she was just willing to be coachable and try new things and you know, just show up differently than she had before. So in this episode, you're going to be listening in to her journey and how she manifested a new job, $13,000, and an opportunity to begin college for the very first time, which I still remember to this day when she told me. She was just like, I have always dreamed of being a college student. And on top of that, a brand new home for her and her family, all within our time working together in just 4 sessions. Now, of course, that was spanned across some time, but still within that short amount of time, she was able to completely shift her life and provide this whole new future for herself and her children. And I am just so freaking happy for her. And so with that, enjoy the recording, and I will touch base with you again after my conversation with Cara. Thank you so much for hopping on this call with me. I'm super stoked to like get more into how your experience was. Yeah. And I'm hoping to like have you go back to where you were at the very beginning before we met, or like what actually sparked you to get in touch with me and get some coaching. Like, how was life and motherhood before we started?
So I was in a really rough spot, like both financially, mentally, and emotionally, you know, before we started. I know that I had shared with you in like our first session how just a lot of like small things that I would come up with, or that I would run into like in motherhood, you know, like to get more specific, like one of the things that I really have a hard time with my kids is like, okay, when they don't want to share like a toy or something with each other. And it's like little like kind of issues like that. I put so much thought into, because I know that like these little situations really end up like kind of shaping us into who we are like when we're older, you know. And so I just like was dealing with a lot of anxiety with, you know, especially like pertaining to motherhood and stuff like that. Also, you know, as you know, I was in a really tough spot. We had just lost our home, and I got sick back in July, and a whole lot of stuff leading up to that. But we had just lost our apartment, and then we were staying in hotels. We're still there, but in 1 week we'll have our apartment. So that's really nice. I know.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
I know. So yeah,
the amount of relief and joy, like it's so huge.
I know. It was so crazy. Yeah, like at the time, I know I've told you this before, but like you really just kind of like showed up in my life at like the perfect time, you know. We had a conversation before you started doing your whole coaching thing. You wanted to do some research about like how you could be of service to, you know, conscious moms, and like what you could kind of bring to the table for like other moms. So yeah, you had reached out to me not too long after that and offered me, you know, a couple coaching sessions just to kind of like pay me back for my time. And then I know a lot of time had passed before I was finally like, okay, like I think I'm ready, and I actually kind of need, you know, help right now.
How did you know you were ready? Like, what happened?
I felt pretty lost, to be honest with you. I felt like I was just in a place where I was like, I didn't really know what to do, you know, and I knew that I needed to find like some resources and reach out for help from anybody that was willing to give me help. Because like I said, I was not only in a bad place, like financially, but also just like emotionally and mentally, like everything. I just felt so jumbled up, like, you know, all together.
Yeah, because not only did you like had to get out of your apartment, but you also didn't have a job at that time too, right?
I was working, but the hours were super inconsistent. It would be like 1 week I would have, you know, like 25 to maybe 30 hours. And the next week I could have like 10 to 15 hours. And yeah, it just wasn't the best thing for me financially at the time, which, you know, it didn't help, obviously. Like I kind of aided in my financial struggles, you know, at that time. So I wasn't in the best job, but yeah, I was between jobs.
Yeah. And then once you got in touch, you reached out and you're like, I'm ready for this. Mm-hmm. What started to change once we started working together?
So I know like our first session, it kind of started off like really simple. Like I feel like we started with like me, and like you gave me 2 exercises to, you know, kind of help regulate my anxiety, my nervous system and stuff like that. And then when our second session came around, when we opened up the sacred circle and we called on our spirit guides and, you know, ancestors and my spirit team to kind of come in and, you know, help out too. That was when I noticed, remember I told you I had started getting really like intense dreams right after that. It was like every night for like a couple days I was waking up like at 3:33 like on the dot from like these really intense vivid dreams that were lasting like a really long time. And also after our second session, that was when I got hired on at this new job that I'm at now. So I could say like pretty soon after we started working with each other already, that with the new job, like that was such a good opportunity, and it was like exactly what I needed at that point in time. But yeah, that like the first thing that I noticed was definitely like the dreams, the downloads and stuff from my spirit team. And yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. And, you know, I remember you were looking into like the symbols and stuff like that. And while, even though I feel like certain symbols can mean different things to various people, but it is really helpful to just like get some insight as to like what it could possibly be pointing to. And I thought it was really cool, just some of the, at least from my dream book that I shared with you of like what it was like showing up and sharing. I was just like, wow, like, how timely, you know?
Yeah.
And what do you feel like had been really valuable for you and just, I guess, the most helpful for you throughout the coaching experience?
So there were a few things that I felt like were super valuable, you know, that came out of our time together. And, you know, because we were just talking about the whole dream thing. One of the interpretations that I got from one of the dreams that I had, and I know that there was a lot, but remember I told you I was having dreams about, I had one specific dream about like changing a baby's poopy diaper or something like that. The interpretation that you had given me for that was that like I need to get rid of my own garbage, you know, or like basically like get rid of anything that I'm holding on to that isn't like serving me anymore. So one of the things, and this was like a super big deal to me because you did a reading on my behalf and you asked if my fear of losing my son could have been from a past life. And we got confirmation that, yeah, that definitely was from a past life. And even though I had no real reason to like fear of like, you know, losing my kids or tragically like losing my son in this life, like he has no like crazy health conditions or anything like that, you know what I mean? I think that those two things, like the dream and then communicating with my spirit guides about that past life fear, I think that those two things like went together like hand in hand because like I said, even though that fear could have been from a past life, it's like us like clearing that away. It like took a huge weight off my shoulders, you know what I mean? Because our subconscious kind of, it holds on to so much crap like from even like so long ago, things that aren't even from, you know, this life. And I felt like that was something like super important that like needed to happen, that I needed to let go of, that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like this sense of closure.
Yeah.
That we can receive that's like, oh, like finally. There's something about also on the nervous system when we finally get that closure, that final resting point, it's like we can finally settle.
Yeah, for sure. And so so that was a big thing. That was how I like interpreted that, like after looking back on, you know, the whole dream situation. And another thing was the timeline exercise that we did, where you had me like close my eyes and go as far back in time as I could remember, and then basically like jumping back and forth to like, you know, the future where I'm picturing my new home. And we got into a lot of detail about like what my home looks like how it feels, and you had me describe like how that felt to me and stuff like that. And that exercise was really impactful for me, and I feel like I took a lot away from that, and I'm going to use that like in my life like going forward, you know, anytime I want to like, I need to like manifest something or because I really feel like that had a huge part in us, you know, getting this new place and stuff like that. It's like we're going to be in our new place on April 10th. And I think that we had even gotten really specific about the date. And you said you were like,
all right,
you know, you were like trying to manifest, you know, for by April for us to be in a new place. And you said too, you were like, don't get too set on the date, but, you know, because the universe will have to like try to do things to put stuff together and make things work. But like around that time, just picture yourself in this new place and stuff like that. And here we are, you know, like April 10th, we're going to have our new place. And I really feel like that had a lot to do with it because I like started believing it after that, you know?
Yeah. And just to like make it a little more clear for the listeners, there was a thing that I did called time techniques. And so what I first guided Cara through was like having her get in touch with timeline in general and like knowing how to move about the timeline of like going forward and going super up high and going in the past and coming back to now and all this. And then because at the time you I don't remember if you had like 60 days left on your hotel voucher or something like that.
Yeah. It was like 40 days.
So time was really, it just seemed like there was a lot of pressure, and I would definitely feel that pressure too.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh man, okay, like if only like we can get in touch with her timeline to really allow that vision to take its place into the timeline and allow the universe and her subconscious mind and everything to start to reconfigure itself for that. And I was like, I have this idea that we can possibly work with, because I think we had a little bit of break between the second week and the third week. There was some space there, and I knew with the pressure, it was like, it can be a lot for conscious moms, to like when there's so much going on, especially when big life changes are happening like that it's like, okay, we only have the capacity to focus on so much. And of course, when things like, if we are in that fight or flight mode, or we're like in that survival mode, it's so easy for like even the things that we know are good for us to just like take a back seat. Right. And it happens, and it's a very human thing, and that's okay. Yeah, that's why I checked in with you like, hey, how you doing? And I offered that idea to you to help bring, your whole self, your nervous system, everything back into a more stable place, or at least in a place that was more trusting in the process in the future. And so, yeah, that's why like I felt really called to share that with you. And thankfully, you've been so open and willing to like try new things and all of this. And there was something that I really wanted to highlight too, that you shared with me at one point, where I think it was on the first call, and you said something like, I like behaved in a certain way, or I did this certain action, and like, I feel like it got me into this position where now I don't have a home and this and that. And even though you were like, I don't want to keep doing this to myself, and it's not just you, it's also affecting your family, there's so much on the line. And so you were being as resourceful as you can and getting the support that you could. And I think it's just so cool that even though at the time you were telling me that you didn't know like what to do or how to like change this particular pattern that you were finding yourself in, that even just you showing up to share and be coachable and be willing to change and try new things and all of this, like you were already doing it. You were already showing up and doing things differently to have a different outcome, to change your life, to like provide for your family and all of that. And that's just like, that was such a really monumental moment. And so yeah, the timeline, getting back to the timeline, once we like got in touch, that was the third session, we got in touch with your timeline. And we didn't go back in time for that particular one, even though like I did have you, but we didn't focus on the past. We focused on the future. Right. And so then I was like, the subconscious mind is so, it works best with specificity. It needs the details of what you see, what you hear, what you feel, and like the date and what people are saying and all this stuff. So yeah, we had this date. I forgot exact. I don't know if it was end of March or end of April. I think it was the end of April, because like I knew our time was going to go past or something.
It was,
or no, how, anyway.
Yeah, it was like you wanted it like we had said for by April. So by the end of March, basically like that. But we also did say like, don't get too set on this date. Don't lose hope if everything doesn't happen, by April 1st, but just, yeah.
Right. Even though it's helpful for the subconscious mind to have that specificity and like the date and all of this, like, I also didn't want I just didn't want to get fixated on that date. And if it wasn't coming together by that date, then, we're stressing out and freaking out and all this stuff. It's like, no, you got to keep your cool. You got to keep your faith. You got to keep your trust. And knowing that it's no matter what, regardless of the timeline, it's all going to come together. Right. And so that was huge. And that's so beautiful, because like after that session, the third session, when we did the timeline work to put in that vision of what you were seeing in your new house and what people were saying to you and all of this, like what had happened?
It was then? Like right after that, I want to say it was maybe like, I think it was even like 1 or 2 days after that third session that we got the call that we got approved for our eviction payoff. And it was like, it's almost like embarrassing to say, but it was like $13,000 that we owed. And Even the lady on the
Wow.
phone, she had said, she's like, I've never seen the county approve this amount. Like usually, like if it's over like $10,000, she was saying like this doesn't happen, you know? And I was just like, yeah. So a couple days later, we got that call, and it was basically just a waiting game at that point. We were just like waiting for everything to fall into place and for our new apartment to be ready for us and stuff. And then I think it was this last Thursday, so a few days ago, we found out our date that we're actually going to be moving in, and everything's going to be all ready to go for us, and our, you know, we'll have the keys in hand on April 10th. So it's like super crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that blew my mind. I was like, wow, because I had been, and I told you about this before, but just like for listeners too, that like I had been in it wasn't an eviction situation, but the house previous to the one I'm living in now, that the owner decided to sell it. And you know, it was this time, I mean, that was what, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like houses were selling like crazy, right? Like the market was just blowing up or whatever. And so they decided to sell. And also the owner, he was an elderly man, and his wife had already passed away, and he was just like doing too much for his age. So his son and daughter decide to help sell it and all of that. So they told us like, okay, like we're selling it. You've got to the end of the month. And even though like the end of the month was coming around, but I was like, I am having the hardest time finding a home in San Diego. Like, holy crap. And so they were lenient, thank goodness. Like they were like, okay, we'll just keep trying. Right. And so I searched for a home for like 3 months. And within that time, because I had put in so many applications and my credit was being checked so often, my credit score started dropping and dropping and drop. And I was just like, oh my God, this is like, there was all these different reasons why I thought there's no way in hell, like we're going to get a house. But even though my fear was really starting to flip out and was, you know, logically, rationally trying to convince me that there's no way in hell this is going to work out, I had to really tap back into my heart and into like the vision and the power of manifestation and all of that to be like, no, me and my family, we're getting a new home. I'm just going through the process. Like I'm already there. We're already living in it. And miracles happen every single day. And if it can happen for other people, it can happen for me. It can happen for you. And yeah, it's like, wow. And sure enough, there was certain circumstances that allowed for us to get approved for a house like 2 hours after applied. Which is pretty wild. Like that doesn't happen, especially when because it was automated system. And so it was kind of everything being done through a robot, and it was on a Friday. Usually it doesn't do it for another business day or two. Right. So I thought, oh, for sure, I'm going to have to wait till next week. But anyway, freaking miracles happen, man. And we got the house, and now we're here and we're settled. But like, I'm honestly, even though like it blew me away when you told me about this part of your story, that like, I'm like at the same time, not surprised because when we get in touch with spirit and we tap into the power of ourselves and us being the co-creator of our lives and know how to work with the subconscious mind, it's like, of course. So cool.
I know. I feel that way too, because I was like, I think one thing that you had shared with me too that I also like resonated with was, you know, when you were looking for a home, that you would go and look at homes and there'd be other people like looking too, and you look at them and be like, oh, these people are more like well established than me, you know, or they look like they have like their stuff more like together than I do, or something like that. Like they'll probably get it like before we do, you know. And I was kind of, well, it had happened a couple times where we applied for a couple places and just other people who had better credit or had more, who were probably, you know, a little bit more established than us, they were getting approved. And, you know, and the landlords were telling us that, you know, we decided to go with someone else who, you know, is a little bit better qualified for this place and stuff like that. And that really just like discouraged me so much, you know. But after our sessions together and like after doing these practices together, it like made it really easy for me to feel like I already claimed it. Like I already claimed like the outcome that I want, you know what I mean? And so just like you said too, it's like, this really was a miracle. Like, you know, the lady who called us and said that we got approved, like I said, she was like, this does not happen. Like the county does not approve this large of an amount. I've never seen this before. She's like, in my 10 years doing this job, I've never seen this. And so I'd say that's a miracle, you know, but at the same time, I was like, it just felt like finally, like, you know what I mean? Like I was waiting for this to happen and it finally happened. And yeah, it's just been so crazy. So awesome.
Hell yeah. Congrats too, because that's amazing. And also, like, even for anyone listening, like, I love it when people have amazing breakthroughs or success stories like this, because it's like, then they set the bar higher, right? The standard gets raised. And just because, like, if it happened for you, it can happen for somebody else. And if there's anyone listening in that's like really in a tough spot and it's just like, what, like, how in the hell is this going to all come together for me? It's like, it happens. It happens for people. And that's just why, one of the reasons why I wanted to share your story. Cause I'm just like, dude, like, yes, universe works in mysterious, beautiful, miraculous ways. And it's possible.
Right.
So yeah. So after,
I was gonna say,
go ahead.
Another thing that has been super helpful to me was, you know, I think it was on our third session that I was talking to you about, you know, how at my new job, I'm in a position of leadership at the new job that I got hired. I'm a manager. And, there, just right off the bat, there was my clerk who works like directly under me, just kind of like overstepping my boundaries. And I was having a hard time like knowing how I can like be empathetic but also set like a very clear boundary with this person. And we had practiced the no pose, like the no stance, you know, and you showed me a couple different ways that I could do it. And through like practicing that and stuff at work, well, a lot's happened with that, but I actually realized like how this has always been kind of this has always been an issue that I've had, you know, with like creating boundaries with other people. And I didn't realize until I started like practicing the no pose and stuff like that. And like after we had talked after our session, like seeing the results and like seeing how it feels to set a boundary with someone, but like still be empathetic towards them and not have to like, you don't have to like be mean or anything in order to do that, you know, but also being more clear. Oh, because one of the things that you coached me on, I think you asked me like, okay, say I'm, you know, so-and-so, and I'm overstepping your boundary. I'm doing this at work when I'm not supposed to. Like, how would you address this situation? And I was like, I think we should try to, you know, next time not do this. And then you were like, okay, that was good, you know, but I think you should say, instead of like, no, like we're not going to try to do things differently next time. Like, this is the expectation, and, you know, like that's that kind of thing. And I didn't even realize that when I would try to set boundaries with people before, I would use that kind of language. Like, can you maybe like try to like not cross my boundary? You know what I mean? And I didn't even notice that was how I would like handle things before. And until you said that, I was like, okay, wow, like I've been practicing that, and like people do just respond a lot more. It makes your boundaries a lot more clear when you're just like matter of fact about that, you know? And so yeah, that has been super helpful for me. I feel like I've been having a much smoother, you know, like transition into this new job, this new like role in this completely new work environment and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you for that too. That's been really helpful.
Yeah. So that was an embodiment practice of being in a pose, putting our body in a particular position that really helps to feel into the emotion, the mindset, the way of being, of holding a boundary and saying no. And of course, I had showed you two different positions where it's almost like on guard, like there's a fist by the hip. And this is in a threatening way, but it's like also for us to know that like, okay, if I need to take extra measures, like I'm equipped, I have the resources, I know what to do in order to do that. And then there's the other position of having the hand on the heart, in which I shared, like, this is a really great one, I feel like, for parents. For me, anyway, in my motherhood, I'm like, okay, I need to set a boundary with my daughter, but I don't want to be like a hard ass about it, like, I want to be kind, I want to be, compassionate with her, but also be like, hey, I love you, and this is not okay. So yeah, that one's so helpful for me too. I always appreciate it when I do it, definitely. And then, so that was the third one. And then within the last session, what happened then? Oh yeah, I don't think we touched base about that, but you can share what you feel comfortable with.
So the last session, I think that the big thing that so many new things that happened like on our journey together within those 4 sessions. And then by the last one, I was like, okay, like I have this new job. We're about to have this new place, and now I'm about to start school, and I already feel like I was spread really thin. And so I asked you, if there was anything that you could help me with as far as like just maintaining like a closer bond, or like any way that I could, be more present with my kids, because the time's going to be a lot more like limited now. Things are changing and stuff like that. And so I wanted to make sure that the time that I do have with my kids, that I'm able to be like, as present as I can be, and really make our time together, like just make sure that our time together is valuable and that my kids are getting the most that they can out of me. And I think that this was really cool too, because the first session started off with me, right? Like just taking care of myself, checking in with myself and stuff like that. Then our middle 2 sections were kind of like manifesting things for like my outer world. And then the last session, it came back to me. And then you showed me, the exercise to just take a moment every day, a couple times a day, to check in with myself. How am I feeling? Like, is there any like discomfort anywhere in my body? And like taking the time to just like take note of these things and like pay attention, that how checking in with ourselves can allow us to, be more available to like the people around us, our loved ones, or like be more present with them and with our kids and stuff like that. And so yeah, I thought that was really cool, like how it started with me, and then in the middle it was like outside world, and then in the end it was like, okay, still like checking back in with ourselves, you know what I mean? So yeah, but yeah, that I felt like overall, like I just am so grateful for our journey together, like I feel like I got so much out of it. I guess to keep it simple, like I'm just super grateful. I feel like you helped me so much, like you were really clear about like any questions that I had. I feel like any issue that I had, like you immediately like had an idea of, like a way that could kind of help me, or tools that you could give me to help myself like in certain situations, you know what I mean? And everything has been super impactful and super helpful. And I started off in a really bad place, and now I'm taking the first steps on this like lifelong, like amazing, exciting journey. I feel like, it's like a new beginning in my life. It really is. So yeah.
And I could sense that. And I just knew, like, even though you came in a point, I was like, oh, wow, like there's so much going on for Cara right now. And it was just really cool within that short amount of time that you were really able to turn your life around, and not only like have your eviction paid off, get a house, get a new job, and start school, which is so cool. It's something that like what you're majoring in was something that, I first asked you, like, what do you want in life? Like, what do you really deeply desire? What lights you up the most? And what's the major again?
So it's kind of a mouthful. So it's sociocultural anthropology. So studies humans like all throughout history, all over the world, and how like religion and like our legal systems affect us basically like all over the world, and how like vice versa, how like our legal systems and cultures. Sorry, I feel like I mixed that up, but yeah, basically it's like studying cultures and political systems all across the world and finding commonalities between all of them and stuff too. And so like with that, with a degree in sociocultural anthropology, I could become like a political activist, or I could do like social work. The political activist thing is kind of what I would like to do. That's like the vision, you know what I mean? But I know that while I go through school, I might decide that I want to do something different. But yeah, I'm just like went ahead and took the leap of faith, and I was like, I'm just going to try it out. Let's just try it. I am super passionate about it because say like if I do get my degree and I do, you know, end up like becoming a politician one day, like I could have a voice and, you know, really like have a positive impact on like my community and stuff like that. And I feel like for a long time I thought that was like an idea that seemed like so far-fetched, like, oh yeah, whatever, that's just like keep dreaming type thing, you know, but I'll never know unless I try it out, you know.
Yeah, and you really step up to the opportunity, because I remember you mentioning how because of the whole eviction and your whole situation that you were in, it actually helped set you up to get financial aid for school. And if you didn't, can you share more about that?
Yeah, that whole thing, it was kind of crazy. It was like a blessing in disguise, kind of, because us, you know, applying for financial aid or CalWORKs, you know, basically assistance through the county to help us with our eviction payoff and stuff like that. We were accepted into this program who was offering me and my husband financial aid for school. And so basically like being in this financial rut put us in a position where now I get to go to school for free. Like, and so, which is really, yeah, it's just really crazy. Just another example of like timing is just so crazy sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So. Yeah. And even though like there's, you know, especially as a mom, there's always so much on our plates, but I think, you know, showing up to actually do something for yourself and for your kids and ultimately for your vision, right? For like something you're really passionate about. I feel like the universe will provide. Like if you are giving back to life itself, then life gives back to life. Right. And it's just like, yeah, that just blew me away. So congratulations. That's freaking amazing and so exciting. Like I was just like, wow. So just to like start to wrap this up, we've already finished our last session and all of that, but yeah, how do you now feel after completing the coaching experience and starting to move on?
I feel so much more confident and like just hopeful about my future, I guess, you know, and like now I have some tools that I know that I can use that I know work. Like if I want to manifest something, or if I just need to like, you know, even just check in with myself and like, you know, if I'm not in the best like headspace or if something's wrong, I feel like much more equipped to like kind of work through my own like inner struggles, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm like super excited for my future, just in general, like especially the school thing, just being able to kind of like talk to someone about my vision, kind of what I want to do, what I want to go to school for. It's like, obviously now, like I'm going to have a way more solid foundation, you know, the new home and everything, the stable job, stable income and stuff like that. But now I have a really clear vision of what I want my future to look like. And that's actually like a realistic, like possibility for me. It just makes me so happy. Like who could ask for anything more? So yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. So if there was a mom or one of your close friends who's also a mom that like really needs support, that is struggling internally, or, you know, just wants that extra support, and you feel like coaching is a really great idea, or you think that they'll get a lot out of it, what would you say to them if they were listening?
I would say like, if you're like considering it already, or, you know, like if you've seen, like heard these stories of people, you know, going through coaching, or stories like mine where like people are actually like seeing results. It's like, just do it. Like, just take the leap of faith. And, you know, we all, like, just as human beings, like, we need help sometimes, you know, like, we need to be open to like reaching out for resources and stuff like that. But you're never, I don't know how I'm gonna word this, but like, it's kind of like what I was saying, like with the whole schooling thing right now. It's like, you're never gonna know like if something could work out in your favor, like if you don't just try, you know. And coaching has been such a positive experience for me, and I really feel like I got so much out of it. And yeah, I would say just try it out, like, you know, like, yeah.
The moment of like, even if, you know, because there's some things where I'm like, well, what if I try something and I don't like it, or it doesn't work out or whatever. But every time I look back to the moments even that don't work out, or I'm like, oh, like studying with someone or something like that, where I was like, I learned something and I figured out what I don't like. I figured out like what wasn't working for me, or like this part of it I really liked, but I can do without this aspect. Right. And I always look back and think like how grateful I am that I even opened up to an idea and gave it a shot and see what worked for me. And usually if it's something that I'm like, oh, I don't really like this part of it, then if I still open myself to the possibility of getting something that does work for me, it's like the universe continues to provide. It like continues to bring in people because I'm willing to open myself up and take that leap of faith and just see what's on the other side of it.
For sure.
Yeah. Cool.
That was like a way better way of
Yay.
what I was trying to say.
Well, I was more adding on to it because, you know, there's so many times that like there were other opportunities that I didn't take either, you know, that like for various reasons I didn't feel ready, or it was too much. I was too fearful, or, you know what I mean? It was like rationally, it like didn't make sense, even though my intuition's like, just go, just do it. And I learned from that too. Yet when there are those moments where it's like, man, if only like I can get some support, or I can have someone that's not so close in my family, you know, or my friends circle, like an outside person that has that objective point of view. Like it's, man, I'm always so grateful
and
for that.
That makes me think kind of too, like when we started our sessions, it was like, I knew that I needed help, but I didn't necessarily know like what to ask for, like help with, you know what I mean? I was just like, okay, like I'm not like in a good space right now. And then like as our sessions went on, it's like, you know that saying like closed mouths don't get fed. It was like anytime I just like went for it and asked you like, hey, you think you could help me with this? Or like, hey, this came to mind, like what do you think about it? You know, it was like you did, like you really just had an answer like every time, but I wouldn't have known had I not asked. It was also another thing too, I didn't think I really had a good full idea of like what embodiment like coaching was, you know, or exactly what it was that I guess you were like offering me. But like as our time went on and as we got to know each other a little more, it felt more and more comfortable. And so and yeah, so it was much more than just like the side eye techniques and the vooing and all stuff like that. All these things were like super helpful, but it was also, I think the spiritual aspect of it was like, it was like a huge thing too, like calling on my spirit team for guidance and stuff, and like kind of like helping me have a little bit more access to my spirit team and things like that. So yeah, it's just like you have to ask for what you want. You have to like let the universe know what you want, so if you are going to have a chance of like receiving it, you know what I mean? And you have to know what you want too.
Yeah. Or even have someone, you know, come in and ask questions to get clarity of like, well, is it this or is it that? Or like, what's, to like hash it out, you know? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Cara. This is the whole experience of working with you and just like seeing you go through this whole transformation. And like, I'm so I wish I could hug you right now.
We'll do a virtual hug.
Like that is absolutely amazing. Yeah. Virtual hug. But thank you so much. It's been amazing. And I'm so glad that we met and we kept in touch and you were open to like just diving a little bit deeper and all of that. And Thanks for trusting in me. It's huge. And thanks for like showing up for yourself, because I can't do the work for you, right? Like I couldn't go into your subconscious mind and do all the things. I can like show you the tools and help give some guidance, but like you really took it upon yourself to create change in your life and co-create a better life for yourself and for your family and for your future. And like, I just like hats off to you. Big props. And I really appreciate it.
I'm super grateful for the time, like I said, that we had together. And yeah, I'm glad that, you know, I made a new friend out of this too. And so yeah, thank you.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm going to wrap this up, and thank you so much for sharing your story. And yeah, thank you.
I'll talk to you later, Cynthia. Bye.
Okay, bye. Yo, wasn't that amazing? Like every single time I think about it, or you know, I've been like tuning in to like the editing process and all of that, I'm just like, dude, it blows me away every single time. And I just wanted to give an update about Kara. So like she told me she was going to get the keys on a certain day, right? And that day came and I was like, oh my God, I just want to like congratulate her and blah, blah, blah. But I know what it's like to move. I moved a lot, especially as a young child. And so I know how much stress it is. And I'm like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to give it like a week and see how she's doing. And so anyway, 2 weeks pass and I hit her up in the DMs and I'm just like, all right, Kara, like, how is it going? Like, what's happening right now? And she sent me some pictures and videos and we were voice noting back and forth. And oh my God, like it just feels so good seeing the pictures and hearing her after, you know, she's moved in. Something happened where like there was a little bit of a delay, so she didn't get the keys till like 2 weeks after. But she was like, I wasn't even tripping, you know, everything was already like set up, ready to go. We just had to wait a little bit longer. And yeah, like the amount of relief and joy. And honestly, like I'm so freaking proud of her. Like I cannot believe what she was willing to open herself up to and willing to put in the work for, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I am just so stoked. And so if you are interested in having a one-on-one coaching experience, I want to let you know that right now is a really good time to get in touch with me because I am actually building out a program and I'm looking for beta clients to go through the journey with me. As far as right now, I believe it's going to be a 3-month journey. And so I have like a framework in mind and all of that. And I'm looking for some beta clients. I believe I've got 3 spots available right now. And I am going to be offering it at the lowest price I will ever offer it as a thank you for helping me kind of hash out the nuts and bolts of this journey, this program. And so if you are interested, definitely reach out to me as soon as possible because once the 3 spots are filled, you know, my doors are closed and I'm going to be working very closely with my one-on-one clients. And then once spaces open up again and I start, you know, making improvements and all of this to the program itself, the price is definitely going to be higher. So reach out to me either in the DMs if you'd like, or set up a call with me for free it's like a 30-minute call with the link in my bio for one-on-one coaching. And I am just so excited. So yeah, I will catch you in the next episode. Ciao. Thank you so much for tuning in. May this show continue to awaken the spiritually embodied leader within you. If you enjoyed this episode and you want others to enjoy it too, then take a screenshot, share it on your stories, and tag me at Embodied Ritual. Now, if you'd really like to support me in helping more people, please rate this show and leave a review on iTunes. Thanks again. Let's connect soon.